Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the You Are Dope podcast. Yo, today I got a very special guest on here today. We actually met in a very kind of unconventional kind of way. Unconventional in the sense that we two grown ass men on TikTok. But what got us there, what got us there was TikTok. But what brought us here, though, is both of our share for children, both of our share. He is an adopted parent. You guys know I got adopted kids as well. But what really inspired me to reach out to Brad was that he shared this story about his foster kid, D. It was something that was really like, damn, I was like, man, that reminds me of myself. And he had just kind of shared like D's experience and, the things that D was going through. And I reached out to him. And I was like, hey, man, if you ever need somebody to talk to D or whatever, I'll be more than happy to do that. And I know a lot of people like they be bullshitting like, oh, they say they're going to do stuff, but I'm really a man of my word. And so Brad, he followed me up on it. And we started talking, and I actually I asked him, I was like, hey, man, would it be cool if you did a podcast with me? Because I am actually venturing out, and I'm going to start doing workshops for adopted parents and adopted kids, my partner and I, Lisa. So he was a little hesitant, but he was like, yeah, I'll do it for you. So he and I, we chopped it up. I actually ended up having a conversation with D. Ended up having a good conversation. And again, I just want to bring him on the podcast so we can talk about adopted, what brought him there, why he does it, the ups and downs of it, so on and so forth. So everybody, welcome Brad to the show. Welcome, Brad. How you doing, man?
What's up, y'all? Good, good. Hey, I just want to say thank you, first of all. Like, the conversation I had with D was amazing. Like, I think he wants to continue those too. So,
Absolutely, man.
really great. Yep.
Okay, that's cool, man. That's dope, man. So yeah, man. Again, I told you I wanted you to hop on here because I wanted to ask you some questions about adoption. I do know that you do have two. I know at least two adopted kids, right? How many adopted kids do you have?
We have three.
Okay.
So we have two children who adopted, Sam and Naya. That's my youngest. They're both 5.
Okay.
They were adopted at birth. And
Okay.
then we also have an adoptive daughter who's 14 who was adopted through foster care. So she's been with us since she was like 9 years old. So she's been with us for a little bit.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome, man. So what inspired you and your wife to like get into adoption?
I don't even know if there was one thing really. My wife and I both ironically had best friends that were adopted. So we kind of had that firsthand experience with, friends who had, lived through adoption. So we had that. And my wife and I met when we were older. We were in our 30s and we knew we wanted to grow our family. Like I had a son from a previous relationship, but we both wanted to grow our family. We were getting older. We tried ourselves. I think a lot of people in adoption come through adoption that way. Like they're trying to build their family. It's not working out. That was kind of naively, that was us. We had like 6 miscarriages. We had a stillbirth, and after our stillborn son, we were like, I can't do this anymore, man. We're off that train. We got on a different path. So that's kind of what led us into the adoption world. And then, our path kind of went off in different directions since then.
Okay. Wow, man. So yeah, obviously I didn't know that about you and your wife. You guys having the miscarriage and whatnot. And I think that, like you said, like that makes a lot of people want to actually just try different methods of having kids because you obviously want to bring something into this world. So was it anything specific, or was it just mainly like we would just want to start our own the little Williams clan?
We wanted the Williams clan for sure. But when we were getting older, like we were like 35 trying to build a family. Like we didn't want to be 50 building a family, right? So we wanted to get things moving in the right direction. But yeah, I think people are naive when they go into adoption, like because it's not working the other way, right? Thinking this is going to be an easier path, and it's not really an easier path. Like there's a lot more challenges, as you know, as an adoptive father. Like there are so many other challenges that you got to think about, and I think we might have been naive originally, but we've grown a lot and like learned a lot about like the adoption path and what our children needs, right? So
Okay. So it just out of curiosity, what, if any, kind of fears or concerns did you guys have going into the adoption process?
I think there were like all kinds of general fears that I had. Like can you connect with a child that's not biologically yours? I think that was one fear. But I do remember, and I was thinking about this morning, like one thing that really sticks out to me is I remember going to our first adoption meeting with our agency, And there's so much paperwork. Like there's paperwork. But I remember the first meeting they had us fill out this paperwork that really made me feel uncomfortable. Like it was, you're basically giving them everything that you'd be willing to accept in a child. Like, so whether it's race, like any mental health issues, like anything you can think of, special needs, age, like everything you can think of, they're asking you, are you willing to accept a child that it's almost like you're filling out like a wants for a child. And that just felt really uncomfortable to me. But one thing that really made me pause was when I was going through the race boxes and black was there. And I remember having a conversation with my wife on the way home because I was like, and it was never like, can I love a child of another race? That was never a question in my mind. Like, but I remember thinking, and I told my wife this, I was like, how can I raise a black man in our society? Like, how can I adequately raise a child, right? A black child, especially a black man, as a white dude who grew up with white people. How can I raise him to be a confident black man? How do I prepare him for all the challenges he's going to face? It just really scared me a lot. And so I remember having that conversation with her, and she kind of paused, and then she laughed at me. She said, because I was already a dad at that point. She's like, you're a great dad. She's like, you have a huge community of people that are going to help you with this. She said, look around. Did you look around the room with all the other white dudes in the room? Like, do you think they're even having these questions? You think they're even having these conversations? Like, you are asking the right questions and having the right thoughts. Like, we can figure this out. So that was kind of like at that point forward, I was like, I got this. I got a community. I'll build a bigger community. I'll widen my circle. I'll make sure that he has everything he needs to thrive and survive in this world. So,
man, that is so dope, man. So you feel like that was just like that, and those are questions that people don't really ask each other. I was telling you right before we got on here, I have two adopted older kids, and both my older kids are white,
yeah,
and my two biological kids are black. But those are questions that people don't really ask themselves. And my son, he's married to a black woman, and they have a biracial child. And I even have asked him that question, like, "Yo, how you plan on, raising him as a black man? There's just some different shit that you got to go through."
Yeah,
and he was like, "Number one, you my dad, so I know you're gonna be there."
Yeah.
And number two, yeah, that's huge, man. And that also, he has a community, like you mentioned, like there's a community of people that, it definitely takes a village to raise a child. You can't just do it on your own. So having that village, having his father there has really been, eye-opening for him. And my son is an amazing dad, man. Like he is he's awesome. He's killing it. And my grandson is dope as well. So it's just interesting that you even actually had those questions, because a lot of people don't ask those questions. They just kind of jump in like, oh, I'm going to do this. And, funny thing is that when I saw Brad be on there doing hair, he be doing cornrow. And he be killing it. He be killing it. And I'll be like, damn, like, how did he even learn how to do that? How did you learn how to do that kind of stuff? Just the little things.
Community, man. Community. That is exactly how. So here's the thing. Like I had curly hair growing up. Like I didn't know how to handle my own damn curly hair growing up. My parents didn't teach me anything. They might have bought me some gel or something, but they didn't tell me how to use it. Like, I had no idea how to do my own hair. So I would always cut it short, or I put a hat on just to paste it down to my head. Like I hated my hair. I hated my hair growing up. And I had my white son. Like I don't think I helped him with his hair ever a day in his life because he doesn't need it. Like it's just, you got straight ass hair, you're fine. But as soon as we adopted Sam, my youngest son, like he has black hair, and I was like, I got to figure this out. Like I'm not gonna be the one of those white parents that puts their kid out in public with their hair all like a mess. So, I mean, and you know this about us, but we have very open adoptions. Like, so we have our kids' parents stay the night at our house all the time. Like, we visit them. Like, we have very, very close relationships with their biological families. And so, like, I remember when my son was young, I was talking to his mom. I'm like, you got to help me a little bit. You're like, you got to give me something. And so she sat me down and helped me. She got me started, like learning the basics of like hair care. But then, like, I reached out to my community and like, I've I'm not perfect, but I learned a
Nah,
lot from our community.
you be killing it, dog. I mean, me as a dad, like when I was growing up with my two daughters, my youngest two, Taylor and Kennedy, man, I used to have them going to school looking crazy.
Hey, there's
Like,
still days that my kids go to school crazy. Like you're busy, right? You get busy. You don't have time in the morning. You throw a little product in it and send them on their way. But um, I don't know. Like I will say though, I would recommend any dad to jump into that. Like it's a lot of work to learn it, but like the bond that you create with your kids, like I've spent hundreds of hours in these kids' hair, like so that's like conversation, community, like connection, like even my oldest daughter who came to us through foster care, like I started doing her hair when she started coming in. And like now, like she'll sometimes be like, hey dad, can you wash my hair today?
mm,
And I'm like, and she's 14, like she don't need me to do that. I just know when she says that, she wants to connect. She's got
yeah,
some going on in her life she wants to talk about. And like we spend a couple hours and like do her hair. And I just think any dad should be jumping into that. Don't just put it on the moms because you're missing a connection point if you miss it on that.
man, Brad, that is so dope, man, that you just said that. And that is one of the things that I do as a coach is just like having fathers like find ways to bond with their kids. And you wouldn't even think like, oh man, me doing my kid's hair is like, but man, that is such a bond, that is such a connection that we miss and we can miss as men because we think like, oh, that's just a woman's
Yep.
job.
Yeah.
We're gonna let her do it. But like, the same with you, even though I would have my kids jacked up sometime, but that was our bonding time. It was like,
Yeah.
no, sit down. We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna talk, and it wasn't forced. So I love that, man. I love that you just brought that up. And men, there's an opportunity there for you that have kids that you can do other things besides just play football with them and stuff like that. You can bond in other ways. So great way, man. I love that. I appreciate that.
I mean,
So
do that too. Do the football and stuff too. Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But what was the biggest challenge for you, say, for the adoption process? What, if any?
uh, I think there's just general stuff like unlearning some of the narratives around adoption. Like, people are always saying like adoption's beautiful, right? I say it's not beautiful. Like, I've been in the room when my kids were born and seeing them. They're born to another human being, right over there, and then they're taken from that human being. So they have this huge loss. Like it's if you've been through that and you've witnessed that firsthand, you see the trauma, you see the loss that they have, and so I think that's just like something I never even thought about going into adoption, like how that would affect me, like and kind of going through that is what kind of has put us on this path to like really having open adoptions with our kids' birth families. Like you can't go through something like that and not be a changed human, and like have empathy for what they've gone through, and what your kids are going through for that loss. So it's not always possible, obviously, but I'm really happy that in our case it is. It's available to us to be able to connect that way and with their families.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background about me as well. Is that I was adopted as an older kid, as I told you. Like D reminded me of myself. I was like 12 years old when my parents adopted me, and my parents allowed my biological mother, my biological father, he had been murdered, uh,
Oh
but
wow.
my but my biological mother, they allowed her to stay in my life. And in all honesty, it was not a good idea,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a good idea because of the fact that there was that attachment that I had to her, and I kept
Yeah.
thinking that I was going to go back to
Go
her.
back.
And so like I would act out, and anytime I was getting close with a family, not my adopted family, but anytime I would get close to a family, I would start acting out because I was thinking that my mom was going to get me back.
Yeah.
And there were like substance abuse problems with her and whatnot. So while other kids are in school, think about algebra and reading, I'm thinking about like how I'm gonna get back with my mom. So I had to grow up like really, really quick. So just out of curiosity, because obviously it seems to be successful so far with you and your adopted kids and their biological parents. How did that come about? Are there struggles with that? And like, how do y'all manage that? Like, how does that whole thing work?
I think the most challenging part is that like there's three different kids that have three different families in three different parts of our state. So trying to keep up with making sure we keep that connection going is kind of difficult, right? Because like you have to make time for it and you have to prioritize it. So that's one of the challenges. But I mean, like Sam talked to his mom last night on the phone. Like they talked for half an hour on the phone. They got to FaceTime, and then Naya's mom's here today visiting. So we just make it work. Just make it work. My oldest daughter from foster care, and I think this is one thing that a lot of foster parents or adoptive parents who have adopted through foster care, I think they generally don't allow family contact, and that's something that we have actually pushed a lot because like we don't have contact with one of our daughter's parents just because there's safety issues there, but
Hmm.
the other one she sees several times a year and is able to talk to like with they can talk on the phone anytime they want to. So I think for her at least it's just been nice to know that I'm still loved. Like I wasn't just like it just there was issues in that like dynamic, but she knows her mom loves her, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think
And
that was
it,
important for her.
it sounds like for you guys though that there's some stability there with the adopted parents, and so I'm sure that probably helps out as well. With my situation, my mother was not stable.
Yeah,
They kept telling me like every other week like that she was going to die because she was an alcoholic. So I was going through all of that kind of stuff. But again, it doesn't sound like you guys are experiencing that type of stuff.
yeah,
I actually have a friend who just recently found out that he was adopted, and he's like in his 30s, and it really messed him up because all his
yeah,
life he had been asking his parents, like he was like, I don't look like y'all, like am I
yeah,
adopted? And they would lie to him, and they was telling him like, no, you're not adopted. So then that 21 and Me, that had messed up a lot of folks because people really find he did that 21 and Me, and he realized that those weren't his biological parents, and he went to go find his mom, and it kind of messed him up, man. So
I
going back to
think
what you were saying, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I think that happened a lot, didn't it, back in the day? Like we're just gonna act like this is our kid, and we're not gonna tell them anything. Like they didn't foresee the DNA stuff coming out.
Nah, they did not.
But we did a lot of like when we were in the process of adopting, we did a lot of work connecting with like adult adoptees, trying to find out their experiences to kind of like. And that was one big thing they said, like always be honest about your adoption experience. Let them own their story, right? So they know everything about their experience. And to lie to them, I can't imagine how that'd feel when you get like 30 years old. He finds out, like that would be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that's challenging, man. So again, like going back to like I know that you do have I don't know what race your older daughter is, but I do know that you have the two younger ones that are like how do you maintain that cultural like how do you give them that culture? What have you been doing? I know you said community a lot, but what do you do to continue to allow them to explore their culture and who they are?
For us, it's like it's everything. It's every part of their life. Trying to be intentional about books, what schools they go to, the barbershops we attend, like we go to, like where we go for events, like history, like every part of their lives we try to incorporate like their culture and their identity into. So like we live in this pretty white community that we live in and we're stuck with because our interest rate's so low. But the district right next to us, it's like a couple miles, is the top 5 most diverse in the whole country. And
Okay.
so that's where we send our kids is to that school district. And so we're really fortunate to have that because they see enough whiteness in our house, man. They need to see some other people. So, but yeah,
Okay.
just like being very intentional about like every aspect of our lives is like trying to surround them with their culture and people that look like them.
Okay, I got you. So going off of that right there, like, do you get the question like, are those your kids? Like, what are the
Oh,
kind of questions that you get, and how do y'all answer those?
I just ignore them for the most part. But yeah, we get those. I get every. I feel like I'm fine when I go out by myself with my kids. Nobody says anything because they're biracial, so they just probably assume they're my like biological kids. But when my wife and I go out together, it's heads turn all the time. They always ask, "Is that are those your kids?" We haven't had any like real issues, like, but people are always asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Quick story. Like when it was my biological my adopted father, Ben. Who that's my daddy. It was
Yeah.
him and my brother. We actually took a trip out to California when I was like 13 or 14, and my dad, that family, they're all from LA, from California. So everyone knew their three biological kids, and then here I come along, as a teenager, and they were like, well, who's this kid? And my dad, bless his my dad was just like, this is our adopted son, but man, when I heard that, it just made me feel like I'm already different than the rest of the kids already. And this just made me feel even more different. But the
Yeah.
kicker though was when we got back home, I told my mom, Barbara Ann, rest in peace. I love that woman. When I told her, I was like, yeah, dad just kept introducing me as his adopted kid. My mom went off. She was like, what? She was
Yeah.
like, you are our son,
Yep.
Ben. That is our son. You don't be introducing me as your dog. I don't care if them people knew us back in the day or
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
Mom wasn't playing that at
I love that.
all.
I love that.
Yeah, so it just made me. It did definitely make me feel a little bit different. With my two oldest kids, they obviously don't look like me. Even though this is really weird. This lady was on time, like, "Oh my God, you and your son look alike." I'm like, I don't know how you got that, but but okay. But I really don't do a lot of explaining. I mean, our situation is very unique. It's a unique situation, but I'm just like, no, those are my kids.
Yep.
And my son, he's 35 now, so they'll be looking at me like, that's your kid. Y'all look about the same age.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I've raised him since he was, like 10 years old. That's my baby. That's
Yep.
my son. Yes. So yeah, it's very interesting that you say that though, man. And I sometimes people just need to mind their damn business.
They're never gonna do that though.
They are never gonna do that. So yeah, Brad, man, again, man, I don't want to keep you too long. I really appreciate you hopping on here, man. I think that we got some good jewels on here. There's obviously a lot more questions I can ask you, but again, I know you're busy. I'm busy and everything. But is there any questions, any final thoughts or anything like that you could possibly give to people that are considering adoption, especially those adopting children of different races?
Uh, do the work. Do the work. If you're looking at adopting, especially of a different culture than your own, make sure you're doing the work. Not only with like race and all that, but like understand adoptees' perspectives and how because your child's not going to be little forever. They're going to grow up and they're going to be adults, right? So make sure you put in the work. That's all I would say.
I got you. And like, just for instance, like if there were some things that you could, like, damn, I wish that I could learn this about my daughter, because your daughter's 14 now, right? Like, I wish I could
Yep.
learn this about my daughter, like the different things that she may go through, because she got adopted like a little later on at 9 years old. Like, what would
Yep.
that be? What kind of stuff that you have to go through with that? Because that's
I think
different.
I got a lot of work to do still on that. Like it's I think I mean, it took a long time to like build that bond up with her. Even she's been with us since she was 9, and she's 14 now. And like we have a great relationship now, but it was a lot of work. Like we're in foster care, right? So you know how that goes. It's like it's it's hard to be ripped away from the only family you know, and then try to bond and like connect with a new family, and not knowing that if they're going to be around forever either, right? So
Yeah.
um, I think yeah, we have a lot of different dynamics going on in our family, but it sounds like you do too.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any advice on that. I actually need to learn some stuff on that too. I think maybe I should join some sessions with you.
There you go. The workshop that we're going to be putting on, man. We're going to be putting on a workshop for adoptees and the kids, and just like those type of situations. Like, how do we handle this kind of situation? And every situation is different. Every kid is different. Every adopted parent is different. So it's not going to all be the exact same. But there are some pretty common like struggles that people go through. Brad, one of the things that we talked about was, kids self-sabotaging.
Yeah,
Like that's like, nah, this is, I'm not going to get connected with this family. Like, how do you handle things like that? So
yeah.
those are the kind of things that we will be focusing on the workshop. I definitely think there's a need for it. We got to get these companies to call us back and email us back. It's
Who
hard.
is it?
It's hard, man. Like for real. Like I'm gonna digress for just a second, but just being a father and wanting to help other dads like build greater relationships with their kids. When I reach out to other agencies, they're not responsive. When you are really just trying to like help, and I'm like, damn, imagine if I'm a dad that needs this kind of support,
Yeah,
needs this help. Like imagine the hoops that they got to go through because I'm literally just trying to help people. Like it's little things like, yo, can I just write a blog for your company? No response.
nothing.
Yeah, so we got to work on that, man. We got to do a better job at that. If any companies out there are listening, like y'all got to do a better job of just even responding. So, Brad, man, again, I appreciate you coming on here today to the You Are Dope podcast. I definitely think that you are a dope ass father, man. You are doing the damn thing. You and your wife, you both. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on here. And to all you out there listening, if this podcast meant anything to you, want to reach out to anybody, reach out to myself, reach out to Brad. You're more than welcome to do that. And to all my dads out there who are trying to strengthen their relationship with their kids, I got you. All right. I want you to come to lifecoachatl.com, book your session when you're ready to invest in yourself because I got you. All right. You are dope. Let's go.
Appreciate you, Sharif.
All right, Brad. Don't hang up right
I won't.
now.